All right. I think we're off to a late start here, but I think we are good to go. Let's see. Testing, testing. One, two, three. And we're live. Welcome back to the Jespective, where I do cultural commentary, go over some life lessons, and everything in between. Guys, it has been a while, and it's quite late today, but decided to hop on here to go live with y'all to react to something quite interesting. So I came across this video from a YouTube creator known as North Star. Pretty new channel. I did a reaction to this channel probably a few weeks ago, but I really like the content that they have. Again, very within the veil of like Jubilee, without being as big yet, but it looks like I think in time this channel will be doing some pretty good things. So wanted to go over some of the content that they have here today, give my thoughts. Let's see, the title of the video, in fact, is Does Gen Z Lack Work Ethic? Now, I see this title. I think it's quite funny. I am not Gen Z nor Boomer. Oh, sorry, I didn't finish the title. One more time. Does Gen Z lack work ethic? Boomers versus Gen Z debate. There we go. Now we got the full context. I'll go back to what it was that I was saying. I am not Gen Z nor Boomer. Okay. I mean, if that's not obvious, then I'm kind of making it clear for you. But I'm going to go at this from the perspective of what I am, which is a millennial. So trapped in between a couple of generations here, but let's see how this one goes. Again, I will have the link to this creator and the video and the full video in its entirety in the description below. So without further ado, let us get right into it.
You guys think that you're not enough?
By the way, guys, I have this on 1.25 speed. You let me know if you feel like it's a bit insane. Try to listen to me at that speed, but that's what we're going to do. All right? Okay, let's do it.
Don't even get me started on that.
I mean, you guys really worked, so we didn't really have to do a lot of that really hard foundational work, you know what I mean?
I don't want to tiptoe around and like spend 10 extra minutes trying to coddle somebody so that their feelings don't get hurt. And you just need to tell them directly, and my feelings are hurt all the time. Do you know what I mean? But when my feelings were hurt with somebody teaching me to be better, thank you. Do you know what I mean? In the end, that person may be so much better.
A 4-day work week would increase productivity.
I mean, real quick, right off the bat, right? Because I think if I'm going to answer that, the answer is I believe it absolutely would. I mean, let's be honest here. Hold on, let me get close up for my little rant here for a second. Sure, I'm doing this correctly for y'all. All right. So the question is, the first question on the prompt is, would a 4-day work week increase productivity? And for me, I think the answer is yes, right? Because like, let's be honest here, just because you are working for 5 days does not mean you are working for 5 days, right? There's a lot that happens in the course of a work day, from, we'll just say, water cooler conversations to, meetings back to back, whatever it might be. No one is productive 100% of the time. And I think that if you had to get some of the same things done within a smaller time frame, I think ultimately we'd probably be able to do it. There's the potential for things to slip a little bit for some folks, but I think people would probably feel rejuvenated from a 3-day weekend, feel a little bit more prepared to tackle the actual work that they have on their slate. And I don't know, I just feel like it'd probably be better overall for everybody. So that's my take. But I mean, I'm sure they have studies and things like that to back it up in other countries, of course, not the US. But we won't take it from that perspective today. We'll see what these folks have to say about that. All right, let's keep it going.
Well, it's not really about days. I mean, you can work 4 days and work 12 hours a day, or be a lazy fat ass and work 5 days a week and 3 hours a day. It doesn't really matter. And I think the more you get out, probably the more productive you'd be. Or these days, people like this are playing Halo or something, or video games, or they're texting all the time and they're on FaceTime.
Yeah, they're making their
I know.
$5,000.
Still living with their parents at 40. I don't know. But anyway, I don't.
The amount of shots this woman is taking already at everybody from a certain generation, like, yo, we just got started, man. You're already taking shots about playing Halo and texting and all this stuff. Okay. All right. I mean, let's hear her out. Let's just hear her out. Okay.
Think
Well-
it matters how much you work, but how productive you are in the work you do. How was that?
What are thoughts on your side? Well, you disagreed.
Well, I don't think like subjectively 4 or 5 days, and I agree with the same sentiment that it's about productivity. So I think there's a lot of tools out there, like tech tools that make things faster and easier. So I don't think it's relatively 4 versus 5 days is better or worse. I think that it's dependent on the person and how good that they are at their job and how skilled. So I'm very neutral on whether it's 4 days or 5 days.
I took it as the context of this is 2025. We don't think 9 to 5 that as much as large and structured, right? So that's the complete platform. I took it as the traditional 9 to 5, and what they want to call factory worker job, but 9 to 5 desk jobs. I truly believe would be much better. Stick a couple hours onto 4 days, you got an extra day off. I mean, only because I've done that route, that would have been much better. So that's just my opinion, but you're absolutely right. I mean, productivity isn't you can't quantify numbers. You got to it's
Right.
quantified differently.
It's not always about the time.
right,
It's what
so-
you do with the time.
right.
Yeah, but that's matters.
And
All right, so right off the bat, I gotta say I agree with the boomers here, right? I mean, look, when this lady started going off and talking about people and their lack of productivity and whatnot, I wasn't gonna go ahead and buy that. But I will say, listen, I agree with the boomer over here. He's very right. Listen, like number one, productivity is not quantified by time. I think when we get into a position where we have to put some time on something, you just think, oh, if you had 5 days to do it, could you do it, right? But reality, like, not all time is the same, not all effort is the same, and not all people work at the same rate. I think if in general people were down to 4 days rather than 5 days in a week, and that was normalized, then I think overall you would probably see a productivity increase just because, again, of the extended weekend. Now, I will say this, the problem that I have with it, the 4-day work week, and I don't know if they'll talk about this, is I just don't know how we integrate this with school, right? And I mean school for the kids, because right now, the way this whole thing goes is we are in a 5-day work week. It has been integrated into our society. And so are our school curriculums for the kids. And as a person who has kids, I'll tell you this right now, school for kids is also daycare for a parent, right? Like, you know that your kids are at a place that you sent them every day. You know that they are in a fairly safe environment, and you know that they'll be there when you come back from work. But now, I mean, like, are they going to stay the 5 days? And so then, like, how does this work, right? Like, does every profession have to adapt to the 4-day work week? This is the only problem that I would have, implementation, because that's always usually where my mind goes when it comes to some of these things. It's like, I like the concept and idea first, but whether or not I can determine if this thing is a pipe dream or a reality, I need to get some of the implementation details. And I'll be very, very honest, I am just not sure how it works when it comes to school and things like that. But that's just me. I'm not saying I ain't got, I'm not saying I got the answers, Sway. Okay, I got what I got my thoughts. Let's keep it going.
coming from me, I don't know, 'cause looking for work every day.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like the metric how well you like use your time, but I also have seen a lot of studies where a 4-day work week, it doesn't necessarily make things more productive, but you can be as productive. And also with the 4-day work week, you would like it's reported to have increased well-being for the workers and higher morale overall and care for the company because they feel more taken care of. So I think a 5 days a week is necessary.
So I used to be a personal
Okay, real quick. Got first comment of the day. Shout out to Joran. Keep state and federal jobs 5 days. You know what? You're probably right. Like when it comes to what jobs would actually fall into the 4-day bucket versus the 5-day bucket, state and federal jobs, aka like school and some of the usual services that we have, you keep those 5 days and you don't try to disrupt that, right? Like the court system, all that stuff can stay 5 days. It's probably too much of a heavy lift to adopt and to migrate all of that to 4 days. So, you know what? I agree with you. I like the suggestion. You see what I mean? Like, I ain't got all the answers, but y'all do. So, thanks, Jordan, for the suggestion. I think that's a pretty good. I mean, you know what? We should do it now. This is what we should do now. We got some answers. let's keep it going.
Trend. And I had a term that for concentrated work, I used to call it density propensity. And so I believe that you get into a rhythm when you're doing something. So the 4 days is basically now you're looking at a 10-hour day, maybe a 12-hour day, whatever it is that people do, as opposed to like the 8 hours. There's a rhythm that you get into once you get into work. But I also believe that there has to be a necessary balance. So to me, 4 to 3 gives you a recovery time, because what I always felt in our structure at time, doing the 9 to 5 or whatever that may be, is you had Saturday off, and then Sunday you did all of your work to get ready for the next week. So you really only had 1 day off. And I
Yeah.
felt no balance in my life ever. And I think balance is paramount to everything that we do in the world.
I don't know. If you had a 4-day week, what would you do with those 3 days? You'd probably be bored. And if you really liked your job, you'd think, shit, I wish I was back at work again.
You can always
right?
work another day though, right?
I could always work another day. I could like get a fun little part-time job if I wanted to work. Otherwise, I would like, I don't know, actually get rest
It's
or
interesting that you
actually-
said if you really love your job. How many people here really love
I love
their
that job.
No, I used to love my job, and I wish I were there 6 days a week. Because you see people you like.
No way. Lies. No, I'm sorry. Listen, I just like, I'm not saying you don't, I'm not saying like you can't like your job. Like I like the job I have right now, right? I do like the job. I really have a fun relationship with my coworkers. Like I have fun at my job, but it does not mean I want to be there any more than I am. And it also means that I still want some extra days off sometimes and the ability to take time. I think those things are not mutually exclusive. This idea that like if you love work and you like the job that you're in, that you want to be there all the time, like 6 days a week, like what are you talking about? Like what in the world are you talking about? 6 days a week and you're gonna be getting what, paid the same? Or like what are we doing here? No, you know what I mean? Like what do you mean if I have 4 days, what am I gonna do with the extra day? Whatever I want to do. That's what I'm going to do with the extra day. I am going to live life. I'm going to just, you know what? I don't even got to be productive. If I want to sit back and just do nothing, I'm going to do nothing. You understand what I'm saying? Like this concept, this idea that, hey, what are you going to do with the extra day? It doesn't matter. I can do whatever I want with the extra day. This is the problem, okay? We don't get to have no damn hobbies. It's just like what the other guy said. You go through Monday through Friday. Saturday is basically your only day, and Sunday is prep for the week again. Okay, so like by the time, if you have kids or something like that, you spend the week and they go to school all week, or they're with a babysitter or something. Like the weekend's the time you got time to spend with your kids or with your family. If you don't have kids, it's the same thing. I want to go out with my friends. I want to see my family members. I want to catch up on Netflix or do whatever I want to do. I do not going to be at work all day. This concept that we need to be working all the time is ridiculous. And that is very much kind of stereotypical boomer. Jordan, she must have no life outside of her work. Yeah, pretty much, right? Like there ain't no way you're going to be like that makes no sense. Okay. That makes no sense. I'm going to go ahead and say I absolutely want to work more days. That's how much I love my job. That means that you don't love anything outside your job is what I'm thinking. But all right, let's keep it going. She got to be trolling. But you know what? No, she's not. She's not. Trolling is not a concept to the older generation. That's definitely a. I mean, they troll, but in a different way. Not like this.
People that make you laugh, oh my God, this kind of.
So the question is would you guys do your jobs that love them? Because I don't love them.
I already do my job 7 days a week.
My point is would you guys still do this if it was free? Would you come out of pocket for gas money? Would you invest on your own to work in your positions or in that field if it was free?
No.
I mean, I run my own company, so my company gets all the money. I get $2,000.
No, I get how it does.
So like, I'm in a unique perspective, at least on my side. And for me, like, I'm very digital focused. I have a following on social media. So I think that the line for me on my side of what's considered work and what's considered not work is very loosely tied, because I go to a lot of movie premieres in Los Angeles, and while I can consider that work because I have to post and promote the movie premiere and the
Right.
film studio, like, it's also fun, right? It's me mingling with my colleagues, etc. So I think that I've been able, at least on my side, to draw a fine line between everything's kind of work, but it's also, for me, it's fun and organic. I now have a company where I have 25 employees that I employ, and for me, if they don't show up to work one day, it's totally fine as long as we're getting our tasks done to accomplish what we need to accomplish that week.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Could I just ask? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, I think at the beginning of the prompt, the gentleman sitting right here was the only person who thought that it would not increase productivity. But then it also kind of makes sense now, right? He appears to have like a different job, some type of media job where it isn't like he's showing up to a specific place every day. The job entails, like he just said, I might have to go to a movie premiere or like I'm very social media focused. I mean, it almost sounds like for the folks who have it almost sounds like for like the top 1% YouTubers, right? Where they're able to like show up at different places and do different things based on whatever they have going. They employ different people, whether it be editors, producers, and all this stuff where it's just like you're kind of doing your own thing though. You know what I mean? And I feel like when you think of a prop like that, yes, you should apply it to yourself, but also I think like we're trying to ask the question more broadly for society. Does it make sense? Right? So I feel like if that's the kind of job you have, then okay, cool. Let everyone know your perspective and how you see it as an entrepreneur doing a non-traditional job, but also put it in the context of what like most people are doing, right? So um no shade, just you know, just some thoughts. Just some thoughts. All right, let's keep it going.
I know I talked to him.
No, you don't talk.
Why you talk? You talk. Just being
It's,
honest.
I,
But I
you can go about it.
to say just because you love doing the job, why would we do it for free? I mean,
Well,
you love doing
that's
the job because maybe you love the paycheck also. Maybe you just love
right.
being around the people you work with. Maybe you're bored at home and say, "Oh, I wish I were at home." You're on the TV or whatever. But and to be honest with you, I would try to do something constructive if I were so wealthy and loved my job. Maybe I'd go do volunteer work at Children's Hospital, or maybe I would do something where maybe someone actually needs my help rather than
Right.
sitting home fiddling, thinking, "Wow, I'm so glad I have 3 days off now. What the fuck am I supposed to do?"
So, first question is, what is the job? What is your work?
My company, I run a marketing agency.
All right, very cool. And then just to kind of like
Okay.
follow up on what you said, is that I believe that if you have a
Marketing.
passion for what you do, it's no longer work. And it's a
100%.
beautiful thing. It's just something that you love.
I understand.
Work and lifestyle become one and the same. And that is a beautiful thing. And I feel like as we sit here looking at our past experiences from linear structure, is that there's an evolving aspect taking place in the world that we really have to look at. And it really has become something to where people are pursuing careers that is something that they absolutely love rather than just going to make money. And I truly, truly appreciate that. And hearing somebody of your age already having a company with 25 people, I'm incredibly impressed by it.
Thank you so much.
That's an amazing thing.
Well, and I'm jealous of your generation in a sense. Our generation,
Don't say,
Let's-
"Oh,
let's-
like it's I had a good time.
I'm general.
If I drop dead tomorrow, I had fun, honey."
You can keep disagreeing, but I'm generalizing in this and point out what isn't right. We did grow up in a very, as Mark calls it, linear structure. Come on. So
Oh, come on.
the message,
The overall-
the narrative, the overall narrative to our generation, in my opinion, okay, so if we don't agree, it was go to school, get good grades, and then go out and get a good job.
I think that there's like a differentiation here with corporate versus
Real quick, I just wanna touch on that what this gentleman was saying, and I hate to just keep saying the boomer because I forgot his name. That's really what it is. I just know like if it's Gen Z versus boomers, like I'll just call these Gen Z guys, and then this is like the boomers. But I would like to call him his name when they show it. I'm gonna try to remember it, but like I like a lot of the things he's saying, and because he's right. That linear structure that he's talking about is very much the thing that generation was kind of instilled in, and I know it because like it's what like we've learned from them, right? Like I think it is the structure that most people follow still, right? It's like the path that we have. But I think what a lot of people are upset about in the current generation is that worked for that generation, and if you did that, you still kind of were able to get on top. Whereas a lot of people now are finding that they do all that and they still don't get anywhere. So like it kind of like the current generation almost feels upset that the linear structure did not work for them the same way it did for the prior generation, right? And so on one hand, I think it is pretty cool that this brother right here who gets to have the marketing company gets to do something that is like, you know, I mean it is 100% enabled by the existence of social media, right? But and then when you compare it to the older generation who would say like, hey, you had to show up, get good grades, you go to school and then, you know, get a job, and then from that point you got yourself the house, the wife, the picket fence, the dog, and the like 3 or 4 children, and you were good to go. And oh, and by the way, daycare wasn't that expensive because like you didn't need it or any of these other things. But like none of that stuff exists in the current generation. So there's always going to be trade-offs. I'm not going to say none of it, but like it's not as easy. So on one hand, while they did not have, while the boomer generation might not have had the opportunities to do some of the things non-traditional, non-linear that current generation has, on the other hand, they, you know, if they followed that structure, things kind of worked out. Whereas now we follow that structure, does not necessarily work out, but we have opportunities to do things. I mean, look, I'm over here talking on YouTube right now. I'm not monetized, so I'm getting approximately $0.00, doing this strictly for the love of the game, of course. But I mean, like my day job is 100% following the linear path that the boomer was talking about. But that worked out for me. I know some people it did not necessarily work out for. So that's I'm kind of going off on a rant here. I lost my initial train of thought of what I was doing. Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to address the thing that he said. But all right, let's I guess keep it going. They're getting more into different aspects of the conversation.
Versus kind of the gig economy. And I think like especially Gen Z, and I might be wrong in stereotyping, I think Gen Z in general is moving more towards gig economy and freelance rather than the traditional corporate 9 to 5, 9 to 6, or if you're in investment banking, Wall Street, it might be 9 to 9, right? Or earlier. So I think that we've started to see a shift, at least for me on my side with all of my peers who I surround myself with, because and I'm in this social media space where a lot of us have that same notion where we're turning our hobbies into something monetizable, which is very different from sitting down on a desk and having that to figure out that work-life balance that you guys grew up in and had to kind of watch and figure out yourselves.
So
Yeah.
I think
he's right.
I'm sorry, Sam.
I think we're very aware of like the side hustle, and like not everything has to be one thing. You can have multiple streams of something. I also think like as we've been growing up, like college means less and less, and it's less so that there's like one way to do everything. There's so many ways to do anything. And I also do want to say I've only lived here a year and a half or so, and I think it is a privilege to do things like what you're saying or things like what you're saying. And I think it's not always that way around the rest of the country. I think people that are my age are trying to get to somewhere you are, where they literally are doing their passion for work, or their work does not feel like work. But that's not so easy and attainable everywhere. I don't know. I just think it's important to know.
There's a bubble.
Yes, completely.
At
Entire
least
other,
in LA,
the rest of
I
the
don't know.
country is so
Yeah.
different, and you know there's more blue collar work in the Midwest, etc.
Like the gig economy doesn't necessarily exist everywhere. And I do a lot of like, I participate in the gig economy a lot here, but that's not something that I could have done elsewhere. So
Totally.
it's just
Where
like
do
a
you go?
different North Carolina. Mhm.
And that's what I was just going to ask for your work. What do
Yeah.
you do, and what's the passion of that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it is a bit of a I think it's a bit of a I think that's also the other side of it too, where like sometimes you see someone like this guy and you see the work that he's doing and you think to yourself like, "Oh, well like anyone could get up there and do social media stuff." And it's like, "Well, not really. Everyone's trying, but like most people are not successful. Most people when it comes to this stuff is not like I think that's also a little bit of the problem with some of the challenges that the new generation faces. This gig economy stuff is like terrible. Like I feel like was it BoJack Horseman or like Tuca and Birdie or something? One of these shows where they were talking like, "Oh yeah, I got all these jobs," but like almost like I have all these jobs, making it seem like they were productive, but in reality, like they weren't doing nothing. It was like, well, it's not that they weren't doing anything; is that they were working multiple jobs just to get by. It wasn't like they were working multiple jobs and you're getting ahead. So it was like you got Uber. You got Uber, you got DoorDash, you got like, TaskRabbit, you got like basically she was doing all these different gig sites and like, "Oh, I got this job, I got that job, I got this job." And at the end of it, it was just a matter of like, okay, and I just like had enough to buy some lunch and not even pay rent. All right. It was like it was kind of sad actually, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, that's where am I going with this? What I'm saying is these are some of the challenges that the current generation faces. And I think sometimes when you see this guy who is successful in what he's doing, it is like impressive and kudos to him, but like more like what this guy's saying here, it doesn't necessarily always translate to that. So again, I guess another reason why the more traditional path of the boomer generation, when it actually worked, could seem like like can we have that, right? Like, because it was stable. At least it might not be as glamorous, you might not be doing as much cool things or having as much variety during the course of your week, but like at least you like at least your bills are paid, right? So all right, let's keep it going.
Yeah. So on one job, I'm a florist, and I have like my own little floral company, and that doesn't feel like work. Like it's beautiful, and I get to
Right.
create,
It's
and I get to have a
enjoyable.
lot of fun. And then for my day job, I work with major donors, and that feels like work. But I also like really, I don't know, like I really enjoy making like building relationships with people, and you know, I would say like going back to our topic overall, like a 4-day work week, like it's easier to schedule over the course of like 5 days with like donors over, 4 days, but it's also like not necessarily you can block things off. So I think it's just like how you schedule or like how you arrange your schedule. Um, yeah.
I think it's an interesting combination where you're kind of having to do the two sides or have to fill the gaps from a passion job to, and I'm sure you would just want to do the floor straight out, right? And you sound like you have very much a passion job, and then you're in the space of finding yourself in it, right? So what a great cast to have.
Great
Well,
team.
I But I think college is very important. If you go with what you majored in or not, like my brother, he's a doctor, and his daughter just graduated high school, and she's going to UC Berkeley, which is a fine school, and she wants to become a veterinarian. At least if you go to college, sometimes you drop out. I think Warren Buffett dropped out, or the one who owns Facebook.
All
But
right.
so sometimes you're smarter than even the professor. Sometimes college is for you or not for you. But at least if you have the choice, or you could start at a city school and then go on to a UC or a Ivy League school, whatever. But I think college is a good backup plan because I regret not going to college. It's good.
I mean, I graduated from college last year, so
All right. So look, it so first I wanna make note. Um just I don't want to say a critique of the channel because I appreciate the content, I appreciate the conversation. But I'm comparing it to Jubilee in that like I will say what Jubilee does sometimes is that like you see all these different so imagine the original prompt was talking about a 4-day work week would increase productivity, right? But now we're in like all these other conversations that have gone far beyond the point in which we were like what the original prompt was about, right? And these conversations are perfectly fine, but I think when we see that they can possibly go a different way, that's where it makes sense to potentially bring forth another prompt, maybe just to kind of keep it focused, and see where everyone's at. But I don't know. I mean, it's again, I think maybe if I'm looking at it trying to be like Jubilee, then I'm like, oh, you're not following the Jubilee bubble, but maybe they're trying to carve their own path, right? Where it's like you start with something and then you just kind of see where the conversation organically goes. I don't know, just my thoughts there. But I guess let me just address one of the things she was saying because I agree. Listen, I there is kind of a debate right now about whether or not people should still be going to college, and it's I will say this as a person who 100% benefited from his degree and college in general, you're never going to hear me say like you shouldn't go. I still think it's probably a pretty good route for most people. The only thing I would say though is that you probably got to be a little bit more strategic about what you choose to study in college. I will say that much. And because when we're talking about backup plans and like, you have your passion and then you have your backup plan and you have all these other things. Ideally, when you go to college and you are studying to, be whatever you want to be when you go there, ideally that is like maybe not like your passion, but something that you can really enjoy doing, right? Like they're like if you're going for something just for the money, but you really hate it, you can't keep that up, right? But um, I will say for most people, I think it still stands that if you have like a reasonable degree, not like a degree in basket weaving or something stupid, um, I feel like it probably would put you in a better place because I think the world still appreciates credentials at the end of the day. And even if you don't have even if you don't necessarily have experience when you're coming out of college, like you do have something that says you went through some you went through some pain and you got through it and you have something to show for it. So um I'm not like just as a random aside, you're never gonna hear me be part of the crowd that says don't go to school because like it benefited me. That'd be ridiculous for me to say. But I will say that if you go, just like be strategic with what you choose to study. So all right. Um I'm gonna let them talk a little bit, and then I might fast forward towards the next prompt. Let's keep going though. Let's see where it goes, and I'll determine whether or not I want to do that. Because I have it going 1.25 speed, and I realize I've been yapping for 30 minutes. This is an hour-long video. I might have to do this as a two-parter or something, but all right, let's keep it going.
know,
Okay.
I highly value college. When I grew up, the notion being from a Silicon Valley family that I needed to go to a good college. And I'm fortunate because the company that I built, we started as a student organization at USC, grew it out to a national organization, and also a for-profit business as well. I think that there's a notion, especially amongst Gen Z, that not necessarily every single skill is a skill that you're going to gain from college or learn. It's a lot of real life experiences now, and outside skill sets that you can learn on your own, especially with the internet and the tools around you to be able to learn how to code. Right? There's things that if you're self-motivated, you can learn on your own. What I really valued about college, especially going to USC, was just the aspect of being able to network with other people and professors and learn skill sets from them. I was
You're at the mecca of alumni and
Sorry, just a random thought, and I know this has nothing to do with what he just said, but like I just want to take a moment to like address the meme of like learn to code that like came up a couple of years ago, and now it basically died. And I have to address this as I have to address this as a person who does code for his day job, and I just remember like literally like 2 years ago, it'd be like a coal miner who's like losing his job, and they'd be like, "Well, learn to code, dude, you'll be fine." And I'm just like, yeah, but now we have like AI threatening so much different industries at a given moment that I feel like if you are entry level now and try to get into the industry, I don't know if these companies are looking at you the same if you just like had a boot camp the way it was like a couple of years ago where like a boot camp and like a like 3 to 6 months of like hands down coding and work would have probably gotten you a job. I'm not even sure if that's the same today. So like when people say learn to code, it just seems like the whole like right wing meme, right? Of just like learn to code, kid, like do something. And it's just like another one of those things where I'm not even sure if there's merit to it. But yeah, I guess I guess side effect to technology getting better or times changing, whatever it is, just something I thought I would bring up. All right, let's keep it going.
at USC though. You got to realize that.
Well, I think like the Trojan network is very, very strong at USC. I mean, the amount of times I was able to email a USC alum, 50, 60 years old, who definitely did not know me, and I said, I am a USC student, is legitimately what got me to where I am. I was able to network with these individuals who were like, I want to be able to support the next generation, right? So I really value the university system for that. For me, I was always the kid in the classroom, in the back of the classroom, just doing emails and emailing those alums while I was learning. I like to say that I took what was learned in the classroom and applied it in real life while I was in college. And I think for most professors, that's a dream student, to have someone who's applying what they're.
All right, I'm gonna skip a little bit. I'm actually quite lost to where they are. I'm pretty sure there's some interesting tidbits here, but just in the interest of keeping the flow going, we're gonna go over to the next. Prompt.
Gen Z doesn't work as hard as previous generations.
All right, let's see what we got.
I'm putting half and half. So I'm gonna do one hand.
Whoa! All right, so the prompt is Gen Z does not work as hard as previous generations. And so what we have here is kind of what I thought we would have. We have the Gen Z representative folks. Sorry, it's late, and that reality just caught me. But so we have the Gen Z representative folks here on the left thinking, obviously, that's ridiculous. And then you have the boomer folks on the right thinking like, y'all just simply don't work as hard as we did. This is the meme that you would expect, but remember, memes are only good when they started with like a grain of truth in there. You know what I mean? It's almost like jokes are only funny if there's you can see a speck of truth in it. You know what I mean? And this feeling, this perception that I think that the older generation has of the younger generation, I think it isn't. I don't even think it's particular to boomers. I think it's like always the case that like you come up as the next generation and you look back and you just feel like you guys have it easy compared to what we had to go through. And in a lot of ways, that might be true, but also in a lot of ways, it probably doesn't fully account for the new challenges that that generation has, right? Just like what I was talking about earlier, when talking about housing and things like this, from the perspective of the older generation versus now, like there is not a comparison. The numbers are in, and if you were born in the prior generation, even trying to get a house, your life was a lot easier than it is now. But let's keep it going. Let's see what they have to say after voting on their preferences here. All right.
Kind of down.
Hey guys, my name is Mark. I'm the one who hosted this debate. If you're a proponent of free speech and you value these kind of raw, unfiltered, open conversations, you should really check
Shout
out
out
the
to Mark.
Diamond Mind Foundation.
Good
They're gonna be running
channel.
essay competition soon with cash prizes up to $3,000 for answering really kind of thought-provoking prompts like the ones in this video. They also have job opportunities and grants coming up, and North Star subscribers are getting the first look at all of it. So if you want, go to the first link in the description to learn more. All right, let's get back to the video.
So thank you, because, having all this in my head, this brings me back to you, Mark, and you were talking about how we were raised in the structure that we were brought through. Way back when there was a guy named Dale Carnegie. Dale Carnegie was all about straight lines and scheduling your time in. Every 15 minutes, like he sold these calendars, and every 15 minutes, you put something in there of what you were going to do so that you could organize time. And it's very cool because in those days, everybody had a Dale Carnegie calendar because it's the way we organized and the way we did things. But this is a fluid world, and it is a fluid generation. And this is what I like hearing about gig work and finding all these different ways to approach things is I don't know if I could call it generational. I really believe that it comes down to the individual person. But the drive within somebody is what's going to make the difference of the work that you do. I do feel, and this is just how I kind of complete my thoughts on it, that we are living in a world, and I keep referring to it, and I don't mean to diminish it, but I think that it's a big influence. It's kind of the TikTok downside of Facebook or whatever it is, YouTube, but the influence is just softening the work ethic. And I don't know if there's the same sense of urgency, the sense of drive, or the dedication that we had in our time. And again, it was driven into us. So I'm not saying it was done in a beautiful way. It was almost abusive, but we have it in us. And so I don't know what the right way to approach it. I just feel like everything is softening in ways to where there's a smaller percentage of people that really want to get out there and work hard and make something big happen for themselves.
So first I want to say I appreciate his perspective, right? I actually appreciate what it was that he was saying there because like he's not completely wrong, right? He's saying that like I need you to think about the fact that his generation had this concept like beaten into them, right? Like this concept of you need to work hard to get ahead, and if you do, I promise, here is the pathway, things will work out. And I'm not saying that isn't necessarily a bad thing to have, but I think that only works, and you can only feel as though that is something that is realistic if the results constantly like if you can consistently get results by following that path, right? And I think that's what the current generation doesn't see as much of, generally speaking. I think what winds up happening is that the current generation feels like you guys work so damn hard to see a certain outcome, and you guys work so hard to basically like yield a certain result that like we just don't get. And so we are rethinking what it is that you were doing and wondering if it makes sense for us, right? There are just certain things that like there's always the memes about how Gen Z approaches work and how like boomers approach work, right? Like this concept that like, oh, I would stay loyal to a particular workplace and I would stay there for 30 years until retirement and all would be well. Like even some of that stuff doesn't really exist like that anymore, right? Like people don't like a lot of people don't really stay at a place for 30 years or anything like that and expect to retire. It's this concept where it's just like, well, that realistically at some point, if it's not favoring you or if you need to, probably get an increase in salary for your family or whatever it might be, at some point you might have to take a hard look and say it might be time to go. You know what I mean? Or like all these other things that I think Gen Z has been sorry, the boomer generation pretty much had ingrained within their brain that Gen Z, even and millennials for that matter, like myself, we kind of just like reevaluate and we're just like I get that's what y'all did, but I just don't know if that makes sense nowadays, right? So anyways, I mean, look, fair point to him for what he was saying. I'm not too sure if I am convinced that we should always be doing things that way. But again, let's see what some of the Gen Z folks have to say about what it is that he said. But in my mind, that's kind of the direction in which it goes. We're just not sure if the way that they were doing things always made sense, and so our reevaluating of that reality may sometimes look like the younger generation is a little bit lazier. That's my take. Let's see what they got to say about it.
Well, I think there's less under control as well too. I mean, my son's you guys' age, and I see his frustration with just with it. It seems like a big cruel world out there, so to speak. You know what I mean? And so there's so much more I think to deal with for your generation.
It's true.
We didn't. The way you talked in privacy when I was your age and maybe below was a 20, 30-foot phone cord so you could go in your room and talk, right? I mean, landlines, in the 80s, yeah, one of my soccer coaches had a
You said
briefcase cell phone,
landlines.
but, we information travel took days to travel, right? You did something bad at school when I was in high school. It would take forever to get through the school in a sense compared to today's timeline. Today's timeline, it's like, oh, I'm posting that. And then everybody knows, so to speak. And I just think that's a lot of pressure to deal with from the standpoint of your generation is under more scrutiny. All you have to do is make one mistake and somebody blasts you all over the world. But getting back to the willing to work harder, I don't know if it's as much willing to work harder. I mean, I think of things like my grandmother was born in 1898, and then when she was 4 years old in Oklahoma, her parents decided to load up the whole family and come across from Oklahoma to Hollywood in a covered wagon in 1902. Go find me a modern family that would be willing to do that. You follow me? And I mean, there's lots of things like that that I think that's been kind of weeded out of generation. We're soft because life's gotten easier. We've been civilized. There's a lot of survival type skills and instincts that we really should be using every day that have been civilized out of us because it's easy. We don't have to look for food. We just, So I think there's a lot of misconception. I don't think anybody's generations were willing to work harder. I think it was almost to Mark's point, to get on the right path or to get in the right, situation.
It's the only line we read. There was no other choice. That's the way that it was done. And that's when even
Okay.
when punishment was different.
The older generations or previous generations being willing to work harder. I think you had
Um,
it in a way that
I mean, just to address what he's saying, I get what he's saying. He's just like more or less they just kind of almost like you're a product of your time, right? So if at like if generally speaking at that moment in time things were harder or like the mentality or what people were willing to accept appeared harder by comparison, then like it was just the norm, right? Whereas today we're just like, oh no, like we actually have like labor laws or like we can look like like we demand better, right? Things like that. Like I get it. I can understand it from that perspective. There's just like things get better, and it's almost that meme. It's that what's that? It's that meme. It's like this cycle. It's like this. It's this stupid thing Red Pillars would say. It's like weak weak men. No, it's like hard times breed strong men. Strong men breed good times. Good times breed weak men, and weak men breed hard times. Something like that. I forgot. Some cycle BS thing that you would always hear like some guys saying, but there's some truth to it. But anyways, I mean, it just kind of like that's what they're saying. Everyone's a product of their circumstance at the time, and you don't necessarily know that you was living or doing ridiculous things until times have gotten better and you were able to look at it in hindsight and realize, yes, that was ridiculous, and maybe you shouldn't have done that. But okay, let's keep it
it's
going.
like, yeah, it was really just nailed into you in a way that was really unfair. And I think with current generations or like Gen Z, there's a recognition of like, oh, I see that like this has really been nailed into you. Like, and I don't want to like live to work. Like I'm more so in a place of working to live. And like, yeah, that's just like kind of a place where a lot of Gen Zs are at, like Gen Zers are at, of recognizing that like capitalism has been deeply instilled into everyone as a way of, developing this country. Anti-communist or like anti-communist propaganda has been like really
I
pushed.
mean,
You guys think you've had enough? Don't even get me
I
started
mean,
on that. What a
I won't get you started on it.
Wait, I
if you guys are tired of hearing all that, imagine how tired
Well,
I am. Yeah, I'm tired of it. Like,
exactly. And I think like
oh,
that's kind of like what I'm getting at is just like people.
I mean, like, just a quick aside. She's right about the whole anti-communist propaganda stuff. Like, this generation is like, bruh, like they're like fighting a war with the word communist. That's the reason why, like, you can't even state, and I'll say this: I'm not gonna even sit here and act like I am a fan of like the most idealistic communist world vision. But I will say that, like, I think it is the dumbest thing when we are talking like political seasons and someone gets to just go on stage and be like, "Oh, that dude's a communist," or like, sorry, had to get some pillow real quick. No, like, when someone just says, "Oh, like that dude's a communist," or like a socialist, and people don't even know what it means. They just know that it means something bad, and I'm like, that's not even necessarily the truth. Nor could a person in the purest form enact like the most extreme version of that within the society and the laws that we have right now, right? Like, I mean, I'm going a little bit on a tangent here, but like, I will just say I hate hearing dumb things like that. It's stupid. All right, let's keep it going.
People for so long have had these things drilled into them and we are tired of it. We can recognize that like these aren't helpful narratives for anyone except billionaires, except corporations.
except for the people that are really running everything.
Exactly. Right. And then to your point before, it's like we need workers, we're producing workers. And it's like that's still how it is. Nothing can run without a worker, like these billionaires are useless.
Yeah.
And so when I'm thinking about like who's willing to work harder, it's just like, I don't know. What I hear a lot of that is just like exploitation, like who is most exploitable. And not to your fault. I mean, like y'all grew up with like Reagan, so it's just like, and you were experiencing a time where like capitalism was booming, and like maybe it was by like raw numbers, but it's like how were people really, treated by
Reagan wasn't so bad compared to Donald Trump now.
No, for surely, but like all the things that
I didn't even like Reagan, but he's a wire boy to me.
like fuck Trump and fuck Reagan, but still like Reagan set up so many things for Trump to
He
continue.
opened the door to the ballroom for sure.
I just want to say one thing. I remember when people would say, I remember when, and now there's still a lot, they're probably 99, and nobody wants to hear what the generation said before. Like one day when you're 50, maybe they'll say to you, you'll say, I remember when I could do this on my blah, blah, blah.
Now that she's absolutely right about, because like you start to see it happening now, like, and we all kind of do it. Like it's inevitable. Like I look at I look at Gen Z sometimes, and I'm just like, just saying, us millennials, we have our hands in two camps. Okay, look, we were kids in the era before technology was what it was, so we got to get a glimpse of the old world, but we also got to live through the new world, right? Where technology is everything. We have cell phones, we have like the world and everything involved in it is accessible through our fingertips. Millennials got a glimpse of both the transition, where depending upon where you are as a Gen Z folk, you might not know that. And so we feel that millennials, at least, we have a certain resiliency that that Gen Z does not have. But also the generation before us look at us like, no, y'all don't. So like this is always a thing that's gonna exist. So she is right about that much. I am not gonna sit here and deny that. But circle of life. Let's keep it going.
Is that people aren't getting out as much now. It's not that they're agoraphobic or anything, but I think they're staying home more now. Is that fair to say? Maybe on the internet, texting or doing this and that. They even said cancer has gone up, or blood clots from people sitting so much.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. And people are becoming more obese because they're not outside moving around like they used to.
I mean,
think people
she
used
right
to
about that though.
Go
Yeah.
outside and meet people. Now they're just meeting them on the computer. Is that fair to say? You know what I mean? More people are interacting
I think we
on the
work
internet
more.
rather than going outside and meeting people in the real world. Is that fair to say? I don't know.
Well,
I think we
okay,
like
hold on,
maybe
just real quick. I don't know if we're saying people don't go outside. But people are definitely a lot more online, and sometimes people do need to go outside and touch some damn grass. That is for damn sure. But yeah, I mean, people meet people. They just the methods in which they find people are different. I wouldn't say people ain't meeting people though, but I mean, listen, I ain't got the stats in front of me. Let's keep it going.
We navigate that like online space more, and like we grew up in it, so it's like more privy to us maybe. But I think also like in the same time, like I mean, maybe I should just speak for me. I feel like I get like tired of being inside online too. I noticed too. I feel like it's like a trap sometimes, but like also like that doesn't mean that we're all just sitting inside. Like like I I feel like that's a big generalization. I feel like more so what maybe you were speaking to, the world is very different. The world is extremely different. So I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. I think I agree with like what most everyone's been saying. I think hard work, even like how we define hard work is different. Like now there's so much more digitized stuff. I mean, like after COVID, like work from home is a whole
Right.
sector. So I just think it's like a lot of different factors. I think a lot of what you're saying is true too. Like who's really,
Okay.
doing like back-breaking work if they don't really have to in this day and age. Like I think like we are I mean, more civilized. We're more developed, whatever you want to call it. So, like, I mean, you guys really worked, so we didn't really have to do a lot of that really hard foundational work. You know what I mean? And
So much.
I mean, it's true though. It is like we're not building the railroad across the country. It exists. You know what I mean? Like, just do things like that.
You know, it's
He's right. Let's just give him credit right there before we proceed. Every generation, and this is so where sometimes I think the animosity that exists between generations is like it's kind of crazy, right? Because like realistically, when you think about it, every generation is standing on the shoulders of the generation before it, right? And this is why when certain generations have things better in a certain way, I don't know why people are upset about it, right? I I understand when we're talking about like you guys are soft now, right? Or all these things. I get it. Like I mentioned earlier, there's aspects that I would feel the same way in certain about certain elements of of the coming generations, right? But but I will say like one generation had to go like kind of the example he gave. One generation had to build the railroads, right? So that the generation that comes after it doesn't have to do that. They have to maintain the railroads, but they don't have to actually like go across the country and set up this infrastructure. Now, that's a good thing because now the next generation gets to focus their time on solving the next generation's problems and for the generations before it, right? So like, yeah, maybe we didn't like maybe one generation didn't work physically as hard, but like the next generation probably used like more like brain work kind of stuff in order to solve that set of problems because they had the infrastructure and the foundation that was set from the generation before it. And you know what? This is perfectly fine. This is how society moves forward. And like we should be okay with that, right? Like we should be okay with that. We should learn to appreciate each other a little bit more, okay? Rather than always saying that the next generation don't know what the hell they're doing, which might be the case in some areas, but like just something to think about. All right, let's keep it going.
it's
Can I ask a question to the three of you? And it kind of goes into listening to you speak, Sam, which is it's not that the physicality or the data driven aspect of work. I would like to focus or hear more from you on your thoughts on work ethic. I think that's more important. Do you feel like people in your generation are driven to do work or are they driven to get out of work? What do you feel? And I'm not
Hmm.
putting that on the three of you. It's just,
I think work has evolved. I think the jobs have evolved from, where you guys were on your era. For us, like we do live in a very digitally native environment and, we've just been sanctioned to have more different resources at our disposal. Software engineering wasn't, a job 50 years ago. It's now a job here. There's different skill sets, there's different
Yeah.
mindsets. Going back to the first question to try to kind of address it, I think that each generation has had its own problems and problems that they needed to solve. And that's the same for this generation. We've had our own kind of work problems that we needed to navigate and explore, especially as these new jobs have come into fruition.
because I used to be a manager of many different types of businesses.
I before he gets going, I almost want a chance to address his question. He said, do we man, what am I doing? Sorry guys. He said are we looking to I'm not gonna phrase it right, but he said, are you looking to work or are you looking to get out of work? And I feel like that is an interesting question, and it is one that, in a way, actually can define certain swaths of like a generation, right? Um, because I think his generation took a pride in saying I worked hard, and I think that exists for everybody, right? Like knowing I worked hard. But I think there is a new category that they probably didn't, the older generation specifically, probably did not consider, and that is working smarter, right? Um, and the thing about working smarter is that it does get you out of work. It gets you out of working harder, but it does not necessarily mean you are less productive. In some ways, it might mean that you're actually more productive, right? It's like when you automate a task, right? Or like when we get new technology to do something that we previously did. Like I don't know, like imagine before you needed someone to like go through a whole bunch of documents by hand and file them into a particular cabinet, right? And like today, I mean, someone doesn't have that job. They could probably take the documents as they come in, scan them, and a computer is able to put them in the right place, right? Like all these different technologies to do things that people previously had jobs for in the past. Now, does it mean that when the people like were doing those jobs that they weren't like were they working hard? Yeah, they were working hard. But like now that we have the technology to do something else, like kind of not smart to be doing that job, right? And specifically right now, I'm talking about people losing their jobs due to technology, but like not even just that. If we're talking about the same jobs, there winds up being better ways to do things. And once you know what they are, and they are more efficient and they are smarter, they will make you work less hard. But that also isn't a bad thing. And I feel like this is sometimes where the disconnect is. Because I think sometimes the older generation sees the younger generation trying to find ways that they can work smarter, therefore not work harder, and they just see it as like, well, you're lazy, kid. And I don't necessarily think that's fair because I think sometimes, again, working smarter is what we should do because working smarter sometimes yields to a higher yield for the in terms of productivity, right? So, I mean, yeah, it's yeah, it's okay. Let me keep going. Just something to think about.
Multi-million dollar businesses like health clubs and restaurants. And so in early 2000, 2004, I was running this $5 million restaurant. And it was the first time, and I've been in a lot of fine dining restaurants, but it's the first time, and it was right when tech and cell phones were really coming on. PCs, everything. Mac was just getting their computers rocking and rolling. And so it was a shift in ideology. And so I have worked with thousands of people. I've always had like 100 people under me when I was running, these areas. And so it was always about information dissemination and people would do their work. The difference that I saw was this restaurant, but really qualified people, because I really headhunted some really beautiful, wonderful people, but the work ethic was different. And the work ethic was shocked that I would ask the job to be done at a standard that I set. And I hired them. I didn't hire them not establishing the standard. This is the standard that I will anticipate from you. I understand if you can't make that standard happen, but you won't work here. But the second I start pushing towards that standard, I'm an ogre. And I have a hard time with that because that's where I'm kind of coming back into in our day. If somebody was pushing us, we may not like it, but in the end, it's like a great coach that has driven you to be the best player that you can possibly be. Can you do that to most of your generation today?
Right. That's a good point.
So
But it's not always what you say, but how you say it. Because people don't want to come to work either thinking, oh, I hope that asshole's not
I understand.
listening," or all he does
My
is
whole equate-
criticize me. He never says anything good about me
I
when
so
I do
appreciate
well.
that, but I'm talking business, and I'm talking about a business
Yeah,
that's
but
fast
be
paced.
kind.
I'm talking about a restaurant.
When you're putting sports context, right? Well, it's in the sense that on the football field, you either get the job done or go sit down. And when that type of mentality is applied to work in 2025, it's abuse. It's you follow me? Like there are some things in my opinion that there is no room for sensitivity.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. And I just mean we don't fear for our lives enough. We're so complacent with everything that
That's interesting.
it goes back to like the use of willingness. And it just, I mean, you think about it and I believe you, I don't think it's a generational thing. I think there's lots of factors to it, but in just a few hundred years in this country, right? Our relatives. I mean, some of the topics we're debating, people might have been willing to die for. Go back here and fight to the death. I'm like, I mean, it's weird. Even just going back a couple hundred years ago, right? People stood up. People were willing to die for just something they believed in, let alone protecting their property or their family or whatever. So we're different. We're civilized. All that stuff is civilized.
I say we as a
I
whole,
mean,
everybody's different because I don't agree with a lot of what you've said. So I'm saying,
Understood. And
and I remember I worked in a place once. As soon as you entered, it said it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice.
so my
I just
my
say
only point.
nobody wants to work for a jerk. That's all. If you're a millionaire, a billionaire,
I think
$8
this speaks
a
to it though. It's not necessarily a generational thing because all she heard you say was, "You're mean."
And where
yeah, I'm gonna be very honest, guys. I don't know how we got where we did. I'm trying to fix
We'll
it.
see. I don't
I
think it's
get
necessary.
I get some of her general concept, but I forgot how we got here from what the gentleman to the right said. But like, let's
Clearly,
just keep
When you
going.
are orchestrating something that is happening in the moment and you have lots of moving pieces, and I used to do event planning as well. And so when you have that many moving pieces, you are cooked. And it has to be understood that the words coming out of your mouth are going to be short. There's no time to sit down and talk 5 sentences when you have a millisecond to get a point out of something that needs to be done. But your job is to do that. So I feel like, I guess the main thing that I'm trying to touch on this is that feelings are very important. And I'm a very empathetic person and I really care for people. But when you're doing work as like a military operation, you're a boss. So there has
Okay,
to be crunch
okay,
times where you
gotcha.
need things
Okay.
done and people aren't doing it. And I guarantee you, your voice probably got terse as well. And that's
I'm the second youngest person in my company, so
That's
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. We're back. I get I get what was happening. It's more or less like he's just saying like, you know, the feel like this their little spat was basically just the idea that if you're the boss and you are in charge of a certain outcome, then sometimes you may not care as much about the like what people are feeling or the minor details in reference to how people are like in reference to whatever people have going outside of the main objective, right? Um but the problem is that like all these things kind of matter in reference to how well your team performs, right? If you don't leave any time for your team to be in the right headspace, their productivity will go down and you will not get the same outcome and the same output that you were otherwise looking for. Um, but to a degree, you need them at some point to kind of get it together and push through. How do you most effectively do that? This is what people are ultimately trying to figure out. But okay, I mean, I get what he's saying. Let's just okay. Let's keep it going.
I'm telling 40-year-olds what to do every single day.
I understand that. My
Um,
point is, when you're under the gun and you're under pressure and everybody is working as a team, sometimes you're going to have to speak a little bit more intently. You want to get
Are
the
you
whole
nice to
project
the people?
done and you're
What'd you
driving
say,
the team
man?
forward.
yeah, you may have to be insensitive.
That
But I'm asking him as
sensitivity.
being a very
Right.
young man in a very great place. Are you insensitive to people? Or are you more
That's not
empathetic?
I mean, I don't
think
put
that's
a
it.
hammer down very much to the degree that
Or they don't want to show up to
Very
work
much
for
is
us?
the only
if they're
answer.
not showing up to work, they're getting fired tomorrow.
No, that's not what I
That's
mean. I
that's
mean,
the
if
only
they
thing
don't
I
want to
need
show up because you're not being nice to them, and that's the
I
only
think that
reason.
there's more options in general. If we go to the decision making aspect and critical thinking, for me, I define critical thinking as decision making. I think this generation has more options to choose from to make a decision.
Definitely.
There's more jobs
Okay.
to go to. If you don't show up to work tomorrow, there's 50 other jobs. There's 50, you can do Uber, you can do
Right.
all these other things. I think that that has been what has sanctioned this generation a bit more than your guys' generation is the fact that there are options. There are backup plans.
They're
Whether
I think that's a fair point. I think that's a fair point. I think the only issue might be all right. So hold on. First, let me address that point. The idea that like sorry, got a little tired there. The idea that the younger generations would think to themselves, like, I don't have to deal with a lot of the BS that you guys have to deal with because, like, I don't feel like these people own me. And so if they treat me terribly at some point, I'm just gonna leave, and it is what it is. And sometimes that means you have options. But for a lot of people, it does not even necessarily mean they have options. They just like they have the pride to be like, I am not dealing with this. And you know, listen, sometimes it's good to do that, right? To just be like, no job is worth my sanity and things like that. But like sometimes you gotta you gotta pay your bills. They like, you know, make the best call for you personally. But But I guess what I'm saying is that sometimes there's the illusion of I have multiple options, and sometimes there's the reality of I have multiple options. But I think the younger generation plays into the idea that I have options, whether or not it is real. And the older generation did not play into that idea that they had options, even if they probably did. I mean, you also have to consider there's probably like differences in culture. The Right now, when it comes to corporations and companies, like they'll just let you go and like good luck, right? And so I think everyone understands that to an extent. Well, and here's the thing: when they do let you go, like it's just business, right? Like, oh, no hard feelings, unless like you really didn't like you, then hard feelings, right? But otherwise, it's like when you think about it, you can just get let go and fired at the job after spending all this time there, and like you're just sitting around thinking to yourself, well, at some point this really sucks, but they told me it's nothing personal, and I guess it was just a job. So inversely, people are starting to see things that way as well. Hey, you know what? Like, I'm going insane getting yelled at by my boss. I'm going insane trying to figure out what it is that I need to do to maintain a healthy work life balance. And it seems impossible at this place. So I'm going to leave. That's probably the culture that now exists, especially with the younger generations when compared to the old. The older one, it was just like, no matter what, this is your job. You have to stick it through. And you probably would be able to stay there for like a very long time. So maybe even retire. But yeah. All right, let's keep it going.
Whether it be
That's a good point.
beneficial
That's a
or
very good
worse.
point.
For me, like I said, my employees, I'm the second youngest person, I'm the CEO. I have 40-year-olds who I tell what to do. I see the difference between my employees who are in their 40s and our interns where they have options. They can have a looser line. But as well for me, I'm empathetic to both sides, and I have to change how I speak to both generations to make sure as the CEO, I get my job done and I am appealing to both parties.
Is that looser line harder work for you?
Huh?
Is that looser line harder work for you? Do you have to put more into it?
I mean, we have to set the hammer sometimes.
And what
I
if
mean,
someone
that
asked
was the
you if
answer
you
to-
could be nicer and give you, critical, but they mean well by it. If they
I'm gonna skip ahead. I'm gonna go towards the next prompt here. Um, Again, I wasn't sure if I was gonna cover every aspect of a video, but like I said, the conversations are a bit. They start in one place and then they kind of go like wherever they go, and I want to be able to try to. I guess for the purposes of this live stream, stick a little bit closer towards what some of the prompts are. So I'm gonna end it. I'm gonna not end the stream. I'm gonna end this part of the conversation here and fast forward to the next prompt. Because there's two more prompts I want to get towards because I have some yapping to do in reference to it before we end it here, and I want to be able to get to it. And I'm not sure if we will if I don't move forward. So let's move over to the next prompt here. Career success is about who you know. Prompt 3.
Career success is more about who you know than what you do.
Could be.
Prompt 1.
I'll agree. Why not? I'll agree to everything.
That's about it.
Yeah, just real quick. I don't know if I fully. I don't know. I don't know if I fully buy that. I think there's a heavy aspect to that, right? Like who you know can absolutely open doors for you and give you opportunities that you otherwise couldn't get. I think it's fair to say that if you know people who are in a better position than you or in a position to, like, when I say better, I mean like you know someone who works at a company that you would like to work for, right? If you kind of are in a position like this, like it definitely helps. But I wouldn't say everything is about who you know, because at some point, like who you know, in my view, really is the thing that gets you opportunity. But at some point, you still have to deliver, and if you cannot deliver, it don't matter who you know, you're done. You know what I mean? So I think who you know is only about opening doors. It's not about keeping them open. So that's my take in the bite-sized chunk. Let's see what some of these folks have to say about it, and then we'll move forward.
Yeah, of course.
Versus, in other situations, maybe you get to be a CEO just on, I mean, maybe you went to Cal State LA and you're in the same exact spot. But you know what I mean? your USC resources were, not, I wouldn't call it an advantage. It was a smart move to go there. I tried to talk my daughter. Come on, let's tap into this. So, but yeah, that's kind of it. I'm kind of having that.
It just seems to me that the harder working person doesn't achieve as much as the person that plays the politics. And it's not always, so I don't want to be definitive on it. And that's why I'm kind of like back and forth in what I'm saying. But I'm saying it's a greater percentage of the people that are playing who they know and how they do the backroom deals is going to get them further than the person that is, you actually, I started feeling like a patsy because my integrity was being used against me. And it used to be that I could overpower and outwork any human being. If they came in at 5, I came in at 4. If they left at 7, I left at 8. I always was able to stretch the lane. But that, because of data and the changes in the world today, it's not like that. It's not about the tangible hour by hour productivity that you do. It's about a lot of different things, a lot of wheeling, dealing, and information shifting. And because information can be pocketed, it's almost like sleight of hand, I just find it more difficult to achieve. That's all. And
it's interesting because I think oh, real quick, I see this this chat log from Joran. Oh, I should have moved this over. The full chat reads, I agree to an extent. I see favoritism in corporate workplaces every day. People unqualified getting opportunities, hard workers don't. Yeah, I think this is a fair point. I didn't realize this is where he was going to go with it. I don't think I realized this is where he was going to go with it at first. And I think once let's move this over. Kind of ridiculous that I didn't, kind of ridiculous I didn't have this there. There we go. Cool. It's, it's interesting because I think I would agree with this. And it is one of the aspects that I even think in my work, I am trying to I'm trying to contend with more and more that it isn't really just about who gets what done. Like who gets what done is important. And I still think that it counts for the bulk of it, but it isn't as big as the pie as you would think. Let's say like who gets what done accounts for we'll say 65, 70%. But the other 30% is who manages the perception of what they get done well. Right? And maybe if they're really good at managing the perception, it's more than 30%. Because the perception of what it is that you're doing and how it is that you make people see what you're doing can really change everything. I'll say this personally, it's something that I dealt with this year in terms of trying my best to manage my perception and making sure that people see me a certain way. Because the actual work, they just do not have the context to understand it. So then it is up to you to find a way to make them understand what you're doing, without necessarily being so in depth or specific. And that aspect of politics is something that some people are really good with playing and other people are not the greatest with playing. And I think sometimes that can make for the difference of again, who is promoted, who is overlooked, who is given certain opportunities. There is an aspect of political wheeling and dealing that everyone really has to learn how to play in the corporate world, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's always fair, but it is absolutely something that exists. So I think this is a fair point for sure.
it is, so that makes it more about who you know and who you what, is kind of that game.
Well, I'd be more proud of who I am by all the achievements I've done, the hard work, the good grades, the college I graduated from. Even if I made less money, I don't care. I know I'm more brilliant. I know I'm more compassionate. I know I'm a better human being than the person whose father might own the company, so he has a job, or this one and that one. And I remember in show business, I used to say, it's not who you know, but who you blow.
Step further.
My point is that, don't you feel better to know? When I ask my brother a question, anything, I don't even have to Google. He knows everything. And he speaks 6 languages and he worked hard. I said he graduated at 15 from high school, went to UCLA at 16, graduated at 20. We didn't know anybody. I mean, he just did it because he worked hard. He was a good, smart man, and he still is. One day that's going to wear off. If it's who you know, maybe that person will get pissed off at you one day and fire you. Maybe but if you have your own intelligence and your own ethics, and you, just get by on how hard you tried and how well educated you are. All you have is yourself to, take credit for. And I didn't get this job because of your father. I didn't get this job because of that guy or that woman, or I don't know. I think it's best to just do it because you're something great and not because you know someone good. That's it.
I mean, she's right. She's right. But the reality is going to be a bit of both. It doesn't mean you get the, like I said, who you know can open the doors, but it does not keep the doors open. And you might get to a place and didn't know anyone when you got there, but then how you manage and the relationship you have when you get there will probably determine like what happens during your tenure there, right? So like you have to be able to manage these things regardless. And it isn't always like who you know insofar as um who you know before you got to the company, but it will be like who you make friends with, what relationships you build, how again, like who are you talking to, and like what pretty much like how are you politicking, right? Like it is unfortunately a very big part um of work life. Like it's something that has to be navigated. Like you need to watch Game of Thrones and understand. For some places, it's very cutthroat, and people get they get killed, unfortunately. And it didn't matter if they were the good guy. It didn't matter if they were like good old Ned Stark. Well, doing Game of Thrones references here, but like it doesn't matter if you're the good guy and you're trying to do everything the right way. If everyone is playing a cutthroat game of politics and you are not playing, right? Like you have to play by the set of rules everyone else is playing in, and you have to kind of see it for what it is. So like, even though it'd be great to say everything is only merit based, um, I think your merits are part of it, and you also have to manage your perception. And that's the other part of it, and that's the politics part, and that can be encompassed in the who you know and how you pull on the relationships on who you know. But all right, let's keep it going.
You're a CEO,
Say la vie.
so I'm interested in knowing
I mean,
about
I
something.
think that success, I always draw a fine line of what success means because I think it's a very individual feeling, right? I think that some people will think success, especially, being a CEO, might be going public, raising money, raising capital. Other people could define success putting 110% into their job every single day, and they're so accomplished by that, right? So I think, success is a very individualistic mindset and accomplishment. For me, I get a lot of gratitude being able to inspire other people and make a difference. And I define success for me as being able to make my own mark, watching my mom and my dad be very successful. They were in the gaming industry. My mom launched Sonic the Hedgehog. She made Xbox Live. My dad was
Wow.
CFO, stayed there for 20 years.
What?
So growing up in Silicon Valley, everyone in Silicon Valley who was my age, they're a shadow of their parents, right? So for me, my success was always how can I build my own empire, my own world where I'm not relying on my parents' identity to be successful and taking that all by myself and not having my parents kind of give me cash to grow my business, etc. Right? If I wanted to raise $5 million tomorrow, I'd call up any.
real quick, real quick. We got kind of the chat in here. Sup, Ferdaz. I'm probably completely messed it up, but shout out to you. Shout out to you. Thanks for joining the stream. I appreciate the love of anyone who joins in the stream as we're going through whatever we are going through. So much appreciated. Question here. Do I play Fortnite? I don't currently play Fortnite, but like I'm thinking about it. There are some games that I'm getting together, a compilation that I will probably come on this stream and do. Anything from some of the games that I do play, like Halo, Smash Brothers, or anything like that, to some horror games that I'm thinking. So when I get a little bit tired at night like this, I will surely wake up and we'll see what happens. But yeah. I totally agree. Let's go back here. Jordan, you said he seems ego driven. Yeah, you're talking about the CEO guy, right? Like, 'cause I agree with you on that. I mean, after hearing what his parents kind of got going on, it makes sense, right? Like, they're pretty accomplished. So he has a very big chip on his shoulder, and he has a lot in which he feels like he has to pretty much live up to, and so he's gonna view it a different way. He's Gen Z, but he like I said, what did you say? His mom worked on Xbox Live, or his dad, or something with Sonic the Hedgehog. Like whatever he was saying, it just sounded like he has some pretty accomplished parents, and yeah, you might want to. It's gonna be a bit different. But yeah, let's see. Let's go, bro. You're a beauty. Well, thank you very much. And sub, much appreciated. Appreciate the love. Thank you. Let's keep it going.
Silicon Valley VC and to say, hey, can I have $5 million? And they'll send it to me. But for me, like my success has always been carving my own path and make a difference in other people's lives, whether that be my employees, whether that be the clients that I'm helping, the brands that I'm helping to grow, all of that stuff. So I think that success is so individual. So it's hard to set and say that these are the things that define success and that build up success.
When I stick a pin, and I mean like just pinning something in, not like popping it.
Yeah.
Into what you're saying is the fact that hearing the background of your parents and then hearing how you were able to utilize the incredible network of alumni at USC, where you not already lifted up. It wasn't you that did that. It was the doors were open to you. Doors that I would maybe find myself, Gio, Sam, any of us, pounding on and being dragged away. You were like, hey, come on. And the door was open. Coffee was waiting for you. And
So that's what I would say too.
I
Was
believe
that
in your work ethic.
Sorry.
I understand your character. I'm very impressed with your character and your fortitude without question. But you definitely had some advantages.
I mean, I think that there's
Clearly.
advantages to being in the environment.
Clearly, he had advantages, right? His parents. But listen, there isn't anything wrong with that. I think, right? Like as a parent myself, I'm trying to do everything I possibly can to give my kids advantages over like everyone else that they're coming up with, like as best as I can. There's going to be areas where I might be unfortunately causing trauma to my kids, right? Like where I'm trying to do good, but I actually messed them up in one way, shape, or form. It's like, it's just what happens. But I'm trying to actively avoid that, and I will try to do everything I can to get them the advantages that they need to go forward. Now, whether this be like advantages education wise, right? Like formally in education, whether it be passing on some of the learnings from my dumb past mistakes, whatever it is that I can do to give them an advantage, I absolutely will do. But I just want them to also be able to acknowledge and realize that, and that's the one thing I'm not always too sure about this brother with. And look, I don't know him, right? Like I'm just watching a video. We just see how he responds, given a certain set of questions, and I just like it's okay to have those advantages, but there's some people who present it in a certain way where they have the advantages, they know it, and they find a way of like having that, like of being humble about it. And I'm not saying he's not that, but you know, the funny line he's kind of moving on with. Let's see where he's going. Let's see where he's going. I'm saying a whole lot and putting a whole lot on him without him saying much yet. So let's give him a chance to kind of respond to what the gentleman here just said about him.
That I was in, but it's not like everything was handed on the silver platter.
But it wouldn't have come as easily.
100%.
And you had
What I'm
great
saying-
examples. Your parents were very successful.
It's a wonderful
They
gift.
gave you a
But if you
vision.
were on a track,
I mean, I could go to at USC. I could, because I was set up for success. I could have chosen not to show up to class every day. Just get a trust fund, whatever, get money. For me, like I showed up to class every single day. I never missed a day of class because I knew that there was a lot of value of showing up and showing in and being present.
which is the beauty of your character. And I would compliment you time and time again on that.
Thank you.
All I'm saying is without possibly, and I'm not saying this like matter of factly, nobody can know, but without the gifts of USC, your parents, the people they know, and I don't think you had to work while you're going to school. And
I was going to say that.
So your focus is 100% on focusing, not total exhaustion because you had 2 hours of sleep before you went to your next class.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have an edge. It's a beautiful edge. I don't take it away from you.
100%.
But I don't think that you can just say that you did this on your own.
Right.
It's
I'm sure it helped.
Okay, yeah. I mean, come on. It's like come on, right? Like, I might have missed the point where he said he did it on his own and where we got into this section. But now that I see why we're here, like, yeah, like you can never say you did everything on your own, right? Like you can never, like, I know we sometimes feel like that, like, oh, it was all me, and it is not to take away what you did, but like you also have to be able to acknowledge your privilege. That's it. Right? Like there is a lot that I've done in terms of like studying and just like maneuvering and everything in order to get to where I've gotten today. But like make no mistake about it. Shout out to my parents. My parents have done everything in their lives up to this point in order to see that me and my brothers and my sister have had advantages, like 100%. They've made personal sacrifices in ways where they could have been probably further along in certain aspects of their lives, but they forgoed. It sounds weird, but they basically put that to the wayside in order to see to it that we were in a better position. And so that level of like privilege and that like acknowledgement is never lost. I always make sure it is put front and center. And it has to be, because you aren't just there like it's not just magic. Like it's like he was just saying, some people when they are even in college, they have to work a full-time job in order to pay for, something, right? And just being able to like, oh, I can work part-time and be at my parents' house is an advantage. Is a bit of a privilege. If you're allowed to not have to work and your parents could pretty much support you through that time, it is a privilege, and it's something that you can that like it doesn't just go like lost. And so it's not to say that the work that you do during that time is not all yours and it's not all your effort, but it is to say that like, go ahead and put some respect on the names of the folks who helped you gain some of that privilege, right? And that's okay. That's okay. It does not take away from what it is that you accomplished. It does not take away from what it is that you've done. It does not take away from your grit, your experience, and your blood, sweat, and tears. It's just saying like, also acknowledge some things, But okay, let's keep it going.
Helped you about who your parents were.
I think
It's like if
yeah,
Steven
yeah, I mean,
Spielberg's kids want to be a little director on a movie, I don't think they'll have a problem. Or if Daniel Day-Lewis's children want an acting part in a movie, I don't think they'd have a part. They still have to prove they're a good actor, but they did have an advantage by the greatest actor and the greatest director.
I think having
helping them.
advantage that
I think by your
advantages.
parents, Sonic the Hedgehog, I even got excited by that.
I love
And
Yeah.
mine goes
Me too. Like all right, sorry, let's go.
back to pinball
Yo.
machines.
I think that
Mark.
no matter the advantages, I think that success is still something that's individual to the person, and
I understand.
how they build success and the resources that they need to define their own success is individual to them.
I honestly feel that's disappearing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
Sonic
people
the
can work
Hedgehog,
really
my
hard
guy.
and still be able to achieve success. But I also think that knowing someone does help you exponentially. It helps you get into the door. It helps you get the job. It helps you increase, at a mass scale for your business. Like, sorry to use you as an example again, but but I also think it's really important to recognize the ways that like you both worked hard, and what gave you that extra advantage was knowing the people that you know. Like your anecdote of, you could call someone tomorrow for $5 million and they'd give it, but I chose to work hard. It's like, but that doesn't negate the fact that you knew that person to be able to get $5 million, which is wild. Like a lot of people don't have access to that person. Your ability to say no versus an inherent like aspect of someone's life being like, that's always going to be a no for me. It has to be recognized. You could still work hard and to have that extra advantage. People work hard all of the time, but what really gives them that exponential push to the next level is usually someone who they know who's able to give them that connection to further advance.
I think
It's funny because I think when we started this prompt, I didn't consider this side of it. I was thinking more in the aspect of like traditional work, but like I think once it was discovered, once he kind of revealed like what his parents were able to accomplish, then it was just like, I'm not saying what he did isn't impressive, but it was almost like, well, dude, like if you couldn't do that, that would have been like worse, right? Like it's almost like that whole thing that she just mentioned there about being able to potentially borrow some funds for like an endeavor for something that you want to do. Like maybe you have the skills to do it, but like, do you have someone who can lend you that money? Right? Like it's like Donald Trump. Like, I didn't do much. I just went and I asked my dad for a small loan of $1 million. It's like, well, like, listen, I'll tell you what. My dad and my mom, they would do it if they could, but there ain't no way they're going to be able to give me a small loan of $1 million to go around, like F around and try some business somewhere. Like, it's just not a thing, right? Like, so having people around who like this is where the like who really does like have an effect, because if who is someone who's able to kind of loan you that kind of money to start a business and you have the knowledge to do it, then like, yeah, like you might be successful and and if you have the right people around you that guide you, mentor you, and tutor you, then like when we're talking career success, then I guess it is really a lot more who you know, right? Because I think what I was thinking about was like again traditional corporate America type stuff. But when we're thinking about that whole aspect, where it's just like, hey, like I was born into a family who like runs who runs a real estate empire, right? Or like, oh, I was born into a family who like owns multiple businesses and things like that. Well, like, guess what? Who you know is people who have the knowledge on how to do this. And so, like, your career at this point, if you aren't even like partially as successful as them, it strictly means that you was not paying attention. Like, what are we talking about? So, oh man, it's so funny because I just like, and this is why, like, I will say I think originally I was thinking like, yeah, we're deviating on the prompt or whatever it might be. But I think with this prompt in particular, I don't think they've strayed away. They've just kind of unpacked what the prompt and like some of the concepts that the prompt itself revealed, right? Like, oh man, I think I went from thinking who you know as not being that important. I think and I think I will stand by that if we're talking a specific type of like category. But if you're talking about like who you're born to or what culture you kind of grown up in and who was around you and what community you're kind of around and grew up in or like are part of, all these different things all encompass who you know. And yeah, they 100% would contribute more to your career success because like I tell you right now, if the people around you are all doing this or that and you don't pick up anything about it, then you're just like closing your eyes, your ears, and your brain. So, oh man, wow. I went from being not sure to like fully convinced that career success is more about who you know and what you do. You know what? And in fact, I'll even take it a step further. Like my like where I am right now career wise is based on some of the concepts that like my parents would have said of like with going to school, right? Getting an education and doing all that. But if I had parents who didn't necessarily stress going to school and and getting my education or even the field I'm in is 100% because of my dad. Okay? Like I'm in the tech world. My dad was into technology. When I was young, I would hang out with him when he was on computers, and like he taught me how to do like tech things, like reinstall operating systems and stuff like that. I was doing these things when I was like 10. Okay, and then at one point, I got into programming just like for fun, like as a random extension from there. And when I got into college, I for some reason I was like, oh, maybe I won't do that. And then I was talking to him about it. He said, hey, like I did this programming class. Why don't you try it? See if you like it. And I did. So like, again, who I know has now contributed to my career success because it led to a series of decisions. It put me on a pathway that would eventually lead to where I am right now. So like, damn. I'm sorry, guys. I had a brain blast. I'm just thinking about it right now. Career success is more about who you know than what you do. Yeah. Yeah, it is. All right, let's keep it going. Sorry, guys. I am going off on these rambles, but I got a second wind. Got a second wind. Let's keep it going.
That's like we're not talking about is the
We
pressure
got we got.
in
Oh, hold
reality
on.
that you were under, right?
I'm gonna let them wrap up this point, and then we got the final prompt in which I got some. I got a bit of yapping to do there because it's a topic near and dear to me. But then we'll probably be done here. Let's keep it going.
Your mom watched Hedgehog and your dad was a
Jordan, an awakening, Jordan. 100%. It just hit me. I was sitting here thinking of things one way. Now look, granted, it's a bit late. I woke up extremely early today to train, and it is catching up to me. But like, I'll tell you what, when I seen it. like it is directly related to because it just affects so much of your decisions and your perspective and your outlook and what you will do, right? Like Like, man, like you mean to tell me Serena Williams and her sister Venus Williams are as successful without their dad being who he is? Right? Like King Richard. Well, was that the name of the movie that Will was? I think so. Whatever. But like they're born to a dad like that, and you mean to tell me that if he's not there, they become the tennis legends that they are? Come on, son. Come on, son. All right. Let's keep it going. Sorry, it was an awakening. It was a brain blast. And yes, career success is more about who you know than what you do, because who you know will probably determine what you do. All right, let's go. Let's go.
An executive at Sega. That comes with some pressure as a
An
kid.
executive at Sega. Oh my days.
Follow me? So, and to build up what you've become already, you had to live up to more than somebody else as well, right? Like, your parents probably had more expectations of you in a sense that you had to live up to.
Obviously.
Following their success.
I feel like that goes back to what I
obviously.
was saying about setting a standard. Yeah, I'm pretty sure your parents set a standard for you,
Right.
and you achieved it. And maybe
Well, I
sometimes
think it's the environment. I think it's the environment that you're raised in. And so I was set to a standard, and I'd like to say I achieved it, and I'm continuing to try that. I think that going on to your point that you mentioned, I think that the amount of resources you have defines the amount of risk you can take, right? I think if you don't have as much resources, you're less risk averse. And for someone like me who, I have resources to me, I'm willing to take more risks because I can be a risk taker, And I think that that's helped me.
New comment in from Jack. Let me move this over here so that it actually sense. You can control who you know to some degree, though. Networking through Coke reach out. wait. Through Coke reach out works. I'm proof. Cole. All right, good correction. Cold reach out works. I'm proof. Yeah, I mean, listen, you are right about that, Jack. There is a degree to which you can control your circle, right? There's no, don't worry about it. I'm just like reading. Honestly, right now, I think if you were to put something in there, I would start reading it like Ron Burgundy. So like I would just read it line by line. So I would say if you want to correct something, definitely like throw the asterisk there, and I'll catch it next because I am Ron Burgundy in this thing right now. But yeah, no. I agree with you. I definitely agree with that sentiment that you do get to control. You do get to control your network to a degree. I think it depends on like your position in life, right? Like if you're a kid, like you're not controlling none of that, right? Like your parents pretty much have most of the control of what it is that you do. Like again, if you have family members and you say, hey, I want to visit these cousins, that cousins, whatever it is, like, okay, sure. Like, and your parents say, we'll do it. That's fine. But as you get older and a different position in life where like, yeah, like you can choose to go out to meet a new, like expand your circle of friends, meet up, like join a certain group, join different online communities, whatever it is, like you have the power to do that. So like, I totally agree with you there. And yeah, that's a fair point as well. So look, at some point, if you don't make any progress, it's like your fault, right? You can't blame it on that. You can't blame it on where you started. But yeah, all right, fair play. Let's keep it going.
Grow what I want to do and who I want to be.
But did you feel you had to do what you thought your parents wanted you to do?
No.
Or what you wanted to do? Like sometimes somebody's a doctor, so they want their child to become a doctor also. What if you
Cold emails to corporate associates is what I meant. That works. Yeah, I think when you said cold, I thought cold calls. That's what I was interpreting, which this makes sense of. Yeah. That's it. It registered once you said it. When I saw Coke, I was like, I was like, I mean, look, it's social. I'm sure it works too. Right, but like probably just in a different way. But fair enough. Yeah, cold emails to corporate associates is what works. Yeah. Fair play. All right, let's keep it going.
wanted to be a pilot, or what if you wanted to be a lawyer? What if you wanted to work at Disneyland? My point being is, did you feel like my mother used to say, just do whatever makes you happy. That's all. May she rest in peace. But I'm just saying that, did you feel you had to not let letting down your parents would be worse than you actually doing
I mean,
what
I
you
jumped
wanted to
in
do.
when I was 14 as a content creator, right? I think being an
Okay,
influencer,
I'm not.
that's
I'm not saying that.
no.
I'm just asking you a simple
So I
question.
think like for
If
me,
you
I
felt you
I
had
went
to.
the rogue path of like being a creative where back when I started social media in 2016, I mean, social media wasn't as big as it is. Creator economy wasn't as big as it is now. Like there were no brand deals that were happening back then as it is now, which is a $500 billion industry, right? So I think that, for me, one, I was able to take the risk to be, on social media and making content when I was 14, and I watched that evolve and that
That's
landscape.
good. As long as you didn't feel pressured that you felt you had to do it rather than you didn't want to do it. But like if you have a child,
I guarantee there's some household.
oh, like if
I
you
think-
had
I
a
think-
child
I think-
tomorrow and they
Well, I
wanted
think
to
I
go,
built more pressure myself than my parents instilled in me because they knew that, if I wanted to, I could be set up for success already. They can hand me and connect me the VC to internet, right? But for me, I wanted to make my own path and I wanted to prove that I could be successful myself. So I set my own standard. So, when I was in college, I was reaching out to 200 people every single day, setting up coffee chats. That's not something that, innately my parents are like, do that, do this. It's these own pressures that I set for myself so I can move myself 1% every single
but
day.
that's
totally
good. That's
appreciate
what I
that.
wanted to
I
hear.
just think I always like to make the distinction. You didn't have the added pressures of having paid your own rent,
No,
take care of
No.
your own car,
of course.
worry about your food,
Yep.
pay for credit cards. So you actually got to sleep.
Mhm.
There's a whole different
Yeah,
game
that's a
when
good
you're so
point.
tired you can't even think straight, and then you have to go
Mhm.
do a meeting. You didn't have to deal with that.
That's what I was
about
gonna
taking
say.
away from your work.
I feel like there's
I'm
a
not taking away
difference.
from your work, but
Yeah.
I do want to point.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like it's such an interesting conversation because like what he's been able to accomplish and what he's been able to do is actually truly impressive. And like when he's describing to you his work ethic and what it is that he did, like I mean, it's like no credit taken away from him, but also given the advantages that his parents gave to him, it allowed him to be free of focusing on survival like stuff like this gentleman is saying here. Like, oh, like, if I have to focus on what it is that I'm going to eat, if I have to focus on bills, if I have to focus on all these other things, then like my time is not thinking on like how do I get better in like this growth mindset of like let me start a business and do all that. It's just like, oh yeah, I like I'll get to that when I can pay my bills. And if I can never pay my bills, I never get to that, right? So like so credit is not taken away, but like again, there is a privilege that needs to be acknowledged. And I think he does. I'm not saying he does it, but it's just like it's both and, not either or, both and. Both he has a strong work ethic and he's done some impressive things, but also he had some undeniable advantages that allowed him to do that. So, all right, let's keep it going.
Point out that there's still.
I
a
don't have
starting-
those pressures.
You have
100%.
started like far ahead. of most
100%.
people. That's all.
100%. And everyone's different on the
And it
ladder.
doesn't take away from your success.
course.
You are a working person. I would work with you side by side anytime because I dig your character.
Don't they send him to their manager?
You made a $5 million
Yeah,
restaurant.
don't work for him. He'll start telling you how to run.
Oh, now I'm down to start a restaurant. Let's do it.
All right.
Work is
Final
not as
prompt.
effective as in person.
Hold on. This is one that is near and dear to my heart, guys. Let's let everyone talk first. Remote work is not as effective as in person. Let's see what they say first, and then I'll go for my rant.
Work is not as effective as in person.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So listen, guys. Let me just speak to this real quick because, like I said, I am in tech. I am a software engineer. Okay. I went from how the world was in 2021 to where the world is going right now. We went from like COVID's here. We work on a computer all day anyways. And so we are now just sitting on our computer and continuing to work on the computer as we were before. And so from my perspective, productivity really didn't go down. It was the same during COVID, during the height of COVID, during the height of being at home 5 days a week. Now, from my perspective, what did change was I would say the depth of like the bonds and the relationships that I had with the people I worked with is stronger now that I actually see them. That I will say is absolutely true. But in terms of the work and productivity, I'll be honest, I don't see any difference. And in some ways, I think being at home 100%, I think I was more productive because when I go in now, there is the commute you have to account for. There are the added extra conversations that you have. And there are just things that happen that if I was just home, for example, I don't think I would do. So like not having a commute means that I would actually start work earlier. Or like when work started, it would just be like I would just like imagine work starts at 9. I have my first meeting at 9. I just open my computer at 9 and start. Whereas when I had to commute in, it would be like even if I got to work exactly at 9, well, I just drove in an hour. Like give me a second. You know what I mean? Like it takes a while to kind of like get back to wanting to do the things associated with work, or even like as you approach like 5. I know when I was working from home, especially even on the days when I work from home now, it might be 5, and I'm not seeing 5 as like it's time to leave. I might like if I still have something to get done, I might get it done, and just like okay, I guess I'm going to 6 or whatever it might be. But when I have to travel into the city in order to do this work, and it's approaching 5, I'm thinking to myself, if you don't start leaving soon, you're really gonna get home super late. So you might want to like not do that. But I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things to consider. I just I think the productivity thing, it really depends on the type of job you have. And all I'll say is that for a lot of people who have desk jobs, like productivity wise, like it doesn't really make a difference. You get the work done, and whether or not you have the extra advantage of being at home or like taking a nap if you need to during your lunch break rather than like sitting in your car and trying to do it, like it doesn't matter. I think the standard should always be, are you getting the work done? And if everyone gets the work done, in my view, it shouldn't matter where you are getting that work done. But if there's other aspects you want to talk about, if you think it is important that you're like the team and the people that you work with, you have a stronger bond and relationship within, then okay, I think hybrid is fine. A certain amount of days. In my mind, 2 is enough to do it. I don't think you necessarily have to go 3, but like everyone feels different. I think hybrid's the good middle ground for the most part. I think anyone saying you need all 5 days is just ridiculous. I don't care. I like you're not going to convince me that you got to be in the office 5 days to do work if you leave if you work a desk job. Again, obviously, everything I'm saying only applies to folks like who can do desk jobs. If you work at a job where like you realistically gotta be in person, right? Like you're a nurse or something like that. Like this ain't a conversation for you, but this is for everyone who can work remote and does a type of a desk job. Jaron, I work remote and we are more productive at home than in office, less distractions. Exactly. Like this is 100% how I feel. Like when I like right now, guys, like I am in my office. Okay. I'm here right now and it is late at night, but like when I'm here during the workday, it is the same deal. I get to just kind of lock in, do what I got to do at work and get things done. I get a lot more work done, coding done, whatever it is I have to do done when I'm actually at home. I find that when I go into the office, like the grand total of what I got done in the day is smaller and it just is what it is. But yeah, 100% agreed for sure. All right, let's see what they got to say about it. I mean, you have this guy, the CEO dude, saying he doesn't agree that is remote mode is not as effective. Well, I'm sorry, he agrees with that. And again, I'm not surprised, but let's see what he has to say about it. And this guy, I'm not sure what his view is. I'm gonna guess he's gonna say, me personally, I get distracted at home, and so I need to be in person. That's kind of where I think he's gonna go with it, but like we'll see.
I went to college during the pandemic, and me personally, I did really poorly when we moved online school.
Okay. Also, to be fair, if you're doing school online, like in college, any grade you probably do better in person in school. So to be fair, again, like I was saying, where applicable, certain things make sense. I'm considering for jobs for school, like I'm pretty sure there's like a whole thing about like learning loss from all the kids who have to do like the year of COVID Zoom school. So like that's probably fair. if that's the direction which he's going, which it appears he is. So yeah.
Was not for me. I think there's certain spaces where you don't really need to be in the office for sure. I think I think it's different for everybody. I think in a general sense though, like there's so many more distractors at home, of course. So I just think doing work at home is always less productive. There's your kitchen's right there, your cat or your dog is there. You have kids, like you could just go for a walk and take your phone and put your AirPods. I don't know. I just think like it's obviously less productive, like of course, than going into a workspace.
Not if you have a work ethic.
Hey.
I'm just take the words out.
So
Go
Well,
ahead.
I have a different perspective on this. I think that company culture is harder to build virtually than in person. And
Mm.
for me, like I like to say that I'm building a company with good culture where my employees know each other very well. It's harder to build that sense of environment and community where people know each other, people trust each other and riff off of each other if it's virtually, if it's on Zoom, than in person, because you can't just go to someone's door, knock on their door and be like, what idea do you have? Let me chat with you and get to know you better. I think that that's harder to do virtually. And I think that increases productivity if you know how other people think.
Um, so I agree with him when he's saying like the culture and all that stuff is harder to do remote. Like he's right about that. That's one of the things that I even mentioned. But I'm still not 100% convinced about the productivity thing. I think like all the data kind of shows like it's weird because there's data that showed that the remote work was more productive. There's data that showed that it was basically a wash, and there's data that it showed like that that productivity went down with remote work by like a very, very, very small percentage, that it's basically negligible. I've seen things from all over the place, and these companies using these random studies to justify their decisions ultimately. But yeah, I mean, I agree with everything he said up to the last point where he's just like, it increases productivity because I know how you think. I guess it could if that's like what happens, but I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm agreeing with the conclusion, but I'll say like his first part, if he's saying like the culture and knowing each other and all that stuff is important and you can't do it as well remotely, like yeah, I would agree with them. I would definitely agree with him on that. And if that's your goal, then like yeah, you got to be in person for sure.
Interesting. Because what you were describing, like I think it's a good combination of both. But like the company I'm in now, we get rolling. We probably wouldn't have as many good ideas if we were all sitting around. But that's our generation too, where I think people are more comfortable, from saying something they might not say right here from far. But I mean, I explained it. I worked remote way before the pandemic, and people would go, "What? Hey, you don't go into work?" Huh?" And I said, I mean, I hadn't even had to tell bosses. There's a job I took only because I laid out, this is why you're going to let me work at home. When I work at home, I wake up about 6, I get some coffee. I turn on my email about 6:30, 7 at the latest. I'm answering emails for you. Somebody calls me on the phone that early work-wise. I'll answer. I don't care if I haven't jumped in the shower yet. Doesn't really matter. But I would explain to them that I start working. If I work at home, I'm working by 7. And I'm not working, and I'll still answer emails and phone calls till about 6 at night. Where if I got to get up in the morning, get ready, put gas in my car, drive to your place of employment so that you can turn the lights on and air conditioning and have the place insured for me. If I got to do that 8-hour window, that doesn't even give me an 8-hour window of work really. And it's just different. I get to work. I just fought traffic to get to work. So to me, I saw my personal productivity skyrocket when I could take an 8-hour day, stretch it out into 12, and do it on my term every step of the way. I mean, if I had to do laundry, yeah, I stepped away from the computer and I did laundry. If I was hungry, I went to the kitchen, I ate. But my point is you want a 12-hour worker or do you want an 8-hour worker? And these guys would go, well, you want the 12-hour worker, thank you. You don't need to show up. So
I actually like the way he put that because that is more or less kind of my sentiment. Like, I'm not going to say like, you don't catch me working 12 hours for fun, but from the perspective of like when I am working remotely, when I'm working home, I take a lot more time to just like whatever it is, I'm going to get it done in that day. So like exactly maybe I woke up earlier and I started earlier. I started checking emails earlier. I logged in earlier. And maybe I take a window to like, maybe I take a longer lunch. So like, I'm actually going to go and like, I got to mow the lawn or something, whatever it is. Right. But there's still this idea that like, no, I have like because I'm not commuting and I don't have to get ready and I don't have to do all these things. Like I am just here in my element. I can just open my computer and do what I got to do, and I'm gonna get it done. And so there's this feeling of like I might stretch out my day, and instead of walking away at 5, I walk away at 6:30 or 7, but I got it done. Versus when I know I have to like, oh, now I got to commute, I got to go and I got to do all this. My mind is very much locked on like, oh yeah, when it hits that time, I am done. Like, you know what? I am not opening my computer until I touch down in the office because I am commuting, and that counts as work to me because it's work related. Stuff like that. Like you think that's not necessarily true, but I'm just saying like this is a feeling that is associated with it, right? And so um, I like the way he put it because that's kind of how I feel in general as well.
For me, it was a revelation that to me companies really should, because I mean, first keystroke, bing, you've clocked in, you're on. Da da da. It's not that it's not you can't keep track of people's worth because you can. But I think to your point, you're right. It does drop down any kind of synergy going on between company building, personal lives.
Yeah,
It's
and
tougher to do.
for me, like, don't get me wrong, like 90% of midday, I'm doing Zoom meetings. I prefer meetings on Zoom rather than having to drive to do a sales meeting and pitch someone. But I think like at least for me, like in my internal team, in my internal company, like I would like for us to build that sense of culture so that we can work collaboratively. If it's outside clients, if it's outside the environment, like of course, like do it virtually. It saves us time and we can get more done. But I think like in my internal team, like I like to say that we should be collaborating and we should get to know each other.
No,
Yeah, and look, and I'm gonna end it here. There's probably about 2 more minutes of conversation left, but I will just leave it there in a good place, and I will just say, there's also a funny there's also a funny aspect of like there's also a funny aspect of like heading into the office in order to collaborate, but like we just head into the office to do more Zoom meetings. And this is a thing that happens a lot where it's like, hold on, guys, hold on. I'm getting back to my desk. What are you doing at your desk? I'm gonna hop on Zoom. I'll just see you there. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes we have rooms, we have, like we actually try to meet each other in person, but there is a funny aspect sometimes of just like I'm going in the office to go on Zoom, and they're just like, yo, I could have done that here. I could have done it with Froku in the background and Batman and all my little characters back there, and I would have been just as productive as whether or not I drove in to do it. But guys, man, I am tired. That was fun. That was a fun conversation. Again, shout out to North Star. I left the full video in the description of this video if you want to go check it out without my yapping and my commentary. They are a fairly new channel. He has a lot of content like this going on, and I like it. I like the Jubilee style conversations. I like the conversations. I like the channels that are like hosting conversations where people get to unpack and go like deeper in on certain subjects. At some point on this channel, I hope to have some folks where I can like interview them and talk through these different things, or like invite some other people to like within the studio / office with me, and we hash these conversations out here live with y'all, of course, engaging as well. So yeah, I mean, was a lot of fun, and I got some more planned this week as well. Probably want to do another 2 live streams this week, so. Yeah, I think I finally got a live stream strategy going, and we'll see if I can implement it over the next couple of weeks. I'm always talking about it, not always quite going as well, but we're here, guys. We're gonna make this work. Anyways, I appreciate everyone who's joined the live stream today, and again, a lot more on the way. That is my perspective. So what's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. Like the video if you have not already, and subscribe as I got much more content like this on the way. So until next time, YouTube, peace. And I will catch y'all in the next one.